Good stuff when it comes to meteorology, especially severe weather. Jet streams, jet streaks, jet maxima, all those fun things. I think Jacob's going to sort it all out.
Take it away.
Yes, the atmosphere goes thousands of feet up into the atmosphere, and we often need to look aloft to determine what's going to happen here with our weather at the surface, and specifically up to where planes fly, 35,000 feet up, where we have our jet streams. Those are the relatively narrow bands of strong winds that steer storm systems all across the globe, and the winds in the jet streams generally move west to east. They can shift, though, north and south based on our temperature contrast. So we have colder air to the north of the jet streams and warmer air to the south of the jet streams. We typically have two of them, a polar jet stream and a subtropical jet stream. Usually the polar jet stream is our main driving force in the wintertime, when both of these are a little bit farther down to the south. And then in the summertime, the jet streams aren't as strong because those temperature differences from north to south around the globe aren't as apparent. And the strongest winds of these jet streams are right in the center, the core there, where you can have winds in excess of 150, 200 miles per hour, whereas near the edges of the jet stream, they're not as strong. So here's the current jet stream across the country. The reason we're cold is because there's a big dip in the jet stream across the central U.S., allowing for cold air from Canada to spill down into the northern plains. But it's a pretty active jet stream across the Gulf Coast and up towards the eastern seaboard. That's why there's some severe weather across the southeast. There's a lot more energy in this part of the atmosphere, more rising air for precipitation. And across the globe, we can look at the jet stream and identify some areas that are faster than others. These red and pink colors indicate faster winds than the blue or green colors of the jet stream. So the jet stream, again, about 5 to 7 miles above our heads. The converging winds, so you have two different branches of the jet stream coming together, that can amplify or speed up the winds of the jet stream. Or you have a much stronger contrast between the hot air to the south and the cold air to the north. That stronger contrast or larger difference between the temperatures all throughout the atmosphere, that can also speed up the jet stream winds. And looking across the Pacific Ocean, we can have some pretty fast jet streams there. The average speed of the jet stream is 110 miles per hour, but with big air mass contrast from cold air to the north and warm air to the south, you can have a 250 plus mile per hour jet stream. Usually that's in the polar jet stream, again the one a little bit farther to the north, and in the wintertime when those temperature contrasts are more apparent. But again, you have the subtropical one to the south and the polar jet stream to the north. Similar scenario in the southern hemisphere, where you have two separate jet streams, and you can identify those jet streaks. Again, the areas of embedded faster moving winds within the overall jet stream. So if we put a plane in that jet streak, and that's flying from west to east, that's a tailwind. That's going to significantly reduce the flight time, increase the speed of that flight as it goes through the jet streak. So let's take an example from earlier this year, February 18th, when we had a 265 mile per hour jet streak just east of Washington, D.C. and New York City over the western Atlantic Ocean here, northern part of the Atlantic. Winds were converging within the jet streams, and you have two different branches of the jet stream coming together, amplifying that wind speed, kind of funneled together to create the jet streak. And we had a large temperature gradient, both at the surface and aloft, and from the warm air to the south, cold air to the north, again creating for very fast wind speeds, 35,000 feet above our heads. The El Nino could also play a little bit of a role here because you have a strong subtropical jet stream usually in place with the El Nino, and that could have converged and kind of boosted these wind speeds. But a United flight from New York City to Portugal was traveling 835 miles per hour as it went through that jet streak. The flight time was cut by an hour. American flight from Philadelphia to Qatar had an 840 mile per hour ground speed, and that's the key here. The speed of sound is 767 miles per hour, so the planes did not break the sound barrier. These speeds are the ground speeds, which combines the plane's actual speed and the additional push from the wind. So it's still moving through that surrounding air at its ordinary cruising speed, so it just so happened that the surrounding air was also moving unusually fast, so not breaking the sound barrier per se. But here's the weather balloon that was launched on that day from Dulles Airport, showing those 265 mile per hour winds in the jet stream, again that embedded jet streak within the overall jet stream. And you can have pretty fast jet streams across the Pacific Ocean. China Airlines flight on January 27th of this year through that jet stream was flying at 826 miles per hour ground speed. These very long and straight and fast jet streams over the Pacific Ocean can also lead to atmospheric river events with a lot of precipitation across the West Coast. So again, that's one impact of these jet streaks. They can significantly speed up flights, but if the flight is going across the jet streak or going against the wind, that would obviously significantly reduce the flight speed and therefore lengthen the flight time. But the other impact here is it can enhance lift and precipitation. There's 4 quadrants to our jet streaks that lead to different impacts here. Quadrant 1, upper left there in the image. That's the left entrance region. There, air is converging at that part in those the upper levels of the atmosphere. As the air enters the jet streak, it must speed up. So when air is converging aloft, then it needs to sink in the atmosphere, so that would lead to not as much precipitation. Whereas the right entrance region, number 2 here, that's going to lead to rising air. So we have this concept here where the air is being pulled north or pushed through the core of the jet streak. That causes the spreading out of the winds aloft. When winds spread out aloft, they have to converge at the surface, leading to that upward motion. And it's a little bit of the opposite on the exit region. So you have the rising air in quadrant 3 and the sinking air in quadrant 4. Again, tied to either downward motion here and divergence of the surface, or convergence of the surface and upward motion. So let's go back to April of 2022 when we had our historic blizzard. This was the jet stream pattern at that time. And you notice this big trough or dip in the jet stream. That energizes the atmosphere, allows for storm systems to develop on the east side of that trough. And also the tilt of that trough also could have led to a more intense system. But I want to focus on the jet streaks here, specifically this one here where you can see the faster winds and then a little bit of a weaker jet streak there. But drawing those quadrants on here, again, quadrant 2 and quadrant 3 of the exit region and entrance regions of those jet streaks, that kind of work together to allow for more rising air and therefore more intense precipitation with that snowstorm. So 2 main impacts of the jet streaks leading to more intense precipitation if they line up properly, and with aviation, which I know you're very into.
Very much into it. You definitely want to tail one if you want to get there fast,
Yeah, no
right?
kidding,
You want to fly from west to east, not east to west if you got to get somewhere in a hurry.
Exactly.
Good
All
stuff,
right,
Jacob.
Good stuff.
Thanks
Thanks,
a lot.
Jacob.